Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here. Wait a second. There we go. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing a long-term price prediction for Bitcoin and what kind of insane price targets Bitcoin might be able to achieve in the year of 2020. 2018 and 19 have been years of pullback and consolidation, respectively, with all technicals and fundamentals pointing to a major rally coming here in the year of 2020. So in today's video, we're going to be breaking down all of those technical and fundamental factors to discuss why Bitcoin might actually be able to rally to and back up above all-time high in this year. There is a lot of technical and fundamental analysis that is going to be going into this video today, guys, so that we can come to a hopefully well-informed price prediction by the end of this video. So if you guys do enjoy today's video, please consider hitting that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. We do daily cryptocurrency content, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of it. But without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Coffee tastes strangely like water today, guys, but nevertheless, we do have a lot of analysis that we need to get into, so let's go ahead and dive right on into it. The first thing that I want to show you in this video would be this vertical white line right about there. This line is very important because this line represents the halving that is coming this year in Bitcoin. As we can see over here, guys, there's roughly 130 days before that next halving, and if you guys know anything about Bitcoin technical analysis, you'll probably know by now that a halving typically has a very big impact on price action for Bitcoin, as it is a relatively major fundamental development. As you guys can see here, the previous halving on Bitcoin happened around July of 2016. That was about a year after the beginning of that bull market and really signified the actual exponential growth and the takeoff that would lead that market all the way up to our current all-time high of $20,000. Now, that wasn't an easy ride, though, because Bitcoin had moved sideways for 280 days after technically starting the bull market before it hit that halving. But around the time it hit that halving, a few months later, Bitcoin really started moving to the upside. And the same thing is true if you look at the previous halving, which took place back over here in 2012. Normally, when a halving happens, it's a little bit into a bull market, and the bull market will take off and ramp up from there. And that's one of the big things that's coming this year, guys, is that we're looking at a halving coming to Bitcoin right about there. Now, guys, if you've been in the cryptocurrency space for more than about 10 minutes, then you probably have heard of the halving, but you might not know why it's so important. Guys, the halving is very important because what happens when Bitcoin goes through a halving is that the block reward for mining Bitcoin is cut in half. At the moment, if you mine one block on the blockchain and confirm that block, then what you get is 12.5 Bitcoin in a block reward, as well as some fees that are thrown in from the people putting transactions into that block. When a halving goes through, that reward is cut in half. And what that means is that the supply of Bitcoin, which you can see over here on CoinMarketCap, well, it grows half as quickly. And okay, great. So the supply growth on Bitcoin is cut in half. Why is that so important? Why is everyone talking about a halving? This is why. This chart right here is one of the biggest reasons why people talk about halvings, not only having to do with the previous correlation to price that we see on the chart, but also because of something called the stock-to-flow ratio on Bitcoin. Stock-to-flow ratio is relatively simple, but also pretty complicated, so I'm going to be kind of brief here. Essentially, what the stock-to-flow ratio does is it compares the amount of a resource, the amount of a commodity more specifically, to the amount of that commodity that is being created every single year. And what you get is a stock-to-flow ratio. As you guys can see here on this stock-to-flow comparison chart, Bitcoin in 2020 is going to have about a 56 stock-to-flow ratio, which means that it would take about 56 years at current production of Bitcoin to recreate the entire current stock. Okay, you might need to listen to me say that twice, but that's what that means. Gold, as you can see, has about a 62 stock-to-flow, which means at current production of gold, we would need about 62 years of that production to recreate how much gold is in existence. As you guys can see, as Bitcoin continues to go through halving cycles, that stock-to-flow number roughly doubles every single time that a halving happens. And guys, that's a really big deal because one of the most important concepts in economics is something called scarcity. What stock-to-flow is a model of scarcity. The more scarce a resource is, the more valuable that resource is because that ties into the supply and demand curve. The lower the supply, well, in general, the demand is going to be higher because the supply is lower, which drives up valuation, which is why the stock-to-flow ratio on Bitcoin is so very important and why halvings typically seem to have some kind of impact on Bitcoin. It makes Bitcoin even more scarce because it's not like we're ever going to have a doubling on Bitcoin. There's nothing but halvings coming for the future of Bitcoin. Bitcoin, by its growth anyway, is a deflationary currency, not an inflationary one, which is where a large portion of its value comes from. So that's one of the big things we're looking for in 2020 is for halving to go through and then the stock to flow ratio to increase. But okay, that's great. So some random number called the stock to flow ratio is going to go up. Why is that important? As you guys can see here, over the course of history on Bitcoin, normally this line right here, which represents the stock to flow ratio's price prediction for Bitcoin, normally Bitcoin is either following that stock to flow ratio price prediction or it's actually exceeding it. As you guys can see, when Bitcoin ran to $20,000, Bitcoin's stock to flow ratio was predicting a less than $6,000 Bitcoin. And guess what? When Bitcoin went into pullback, that's exactly where we went to, was $6,000. The historical significance of stock to flow cannot be understated, and if you look into the statistics of it, the stock to flow price prediction has a whole lot to do. It's a very high correlation with Bitcoin's price action itself. And what that means, guys, is this. Based on the stock to flow price prediction for Bitcoin, we should be trading around $33,000 by this time next year. Now, one thing I want to mention before we get any farther is that, as you guys can see, in the previous bull market, stock to flow was actually over-predicting Bitcoin's price action for a little while, but Bitcoin eventually rallied and surpassed it. Since Bitcoin moves more parabolically than this stock to flow prediction seems to, it would make sense if Bitcoin was maybe trading around $20,000 to $25,000 rather than $33,000 like stock to flow is predicting. Nevertheless, based on this model and also everything else we're about to discuss, it would make sense for Bitcoin to rally back to all-time high and a little bit farther this year. Okay, cool. So we got the halving and we got the stock to flow models knocked out right here, right off the bat. So let's kind of rapid fire go through some more technicals and fundamentals that I've been wanting to talk about as well. One of the things that I've been wanting to talk about, and one of the things that's really jumped out at me here over the last couple of days, is the fact that Bitcoin has been in a downtrend for the last several months. But as you guys can see, whenever Bitcoin was in a downtrend, it'd start making lower lows or even equivalent lows, but we'd eventually fall through. Right here, we had some equivalent lows, we fell through. But as of late, over the last month, Bitcoin has not been doing that. Bitcoin has been making equivalent lows, and for right now anyway, we'll see if this lasts, Bitcoin is actually sitting at a higher low, which means that Bitcoin's downward trending momentum has started to kind of trade sideways. And as you guys know from CT2A, it's very important that if Bitcoin is going to restart a new bull market, restart a new uptrend, one of the things it needs to do is it needs to stop trending downwards, it needs to start trading sideways, and then it can start moving to the upside. Seems pretty obvious, but it's one of those things that you might not think about. Because, guys, even though Bitcoin was making similar lows down here, we were making lower highs. At the moment, guys, Bitcoin is making ever so slightly lower highs, but really they're roughly equivalent highs. Bitcoin is more trading sideways now than it was before, which, of course, is a step in the right direction. Furthermore, guys, if we look out here at the longer term, what we're going to see is that Bitcoin has some very strong support beneath it. And one of those levels of support would be the 200 weekly simple moving average. This moving average has never been broken in the entire history of Bitcoin, and frankly, I don't see any fundamental or technical forces that would suggest that Bitcoin is going to do it now. Point is, this is giving us very strong support at $5,000, which in my opinion is pretty much the floor. I don't see Bitcoin going beneath that. Furthermore, if we come out here to the monthly chart, what we're going to see is that the 50 monthly moving average, which is basically a 4-year moving average, is actually sitting down here around $4,900, almost at exactly the same position. And one more thing to bring up is that, guys, Bitcoin is currently sitting on and testing support on the 20 monthly exponential moving average. Now, the last time we did that, unfortunately, we did break bearish, and if we do break bearish, we're probably going straight to $5,000. But nevertheless, I do believe that one of these levels of support is going to catch us, and the fact that we're already testing one of them indicates that we have a good chance of rallying, and if we don't, we'll probably fall down, and then we'll rally from there. Nevertheless, I do think that there's a rally coming and going to be restarting in the next 4 to 5 months here on Bitcoin. Also, guys, on the weekly chart, one thing that we have to look at is that Bitcoin is starting to converge bullish and has been for over a month now. As you guys can see, we've had 5 green bullish convergence candles here on the histogram for the weekly chart MACD. And the really cool thing about this, guys, is that Bitcoin is trading sideways and we're getting this kind of convergence on the MACD. If we start a new uptrend, this MACD is going to cross very quickly and we're going to be straight off to the races. One more thing to mention, guys, is that down here on the RSI on the weekly chart, for the first time in quite some time, RSI has been making higher lows. You can see we've had 1 low, 2 lows, and maybe a 3rd low right there. That one's debatable, but nevertheless, the RSI has been actually trending to the upside a little bit. Now, this almost looks like an RSI bear flag, kind of, but I am going to go ahead and lean bullish on this one and say that Bitcoin's RSI is setting higher lows, and I'm happy about that. We haven't seen that happen at all here over the last couple of months. We saw it happen a little bit here, actually, but it wasn't anything really significant, and it certainly wasn't as long-lived as what we're seeing here, starting back in November, moving on still through January. So I'm happy to see that. One thing also, guys, that the market sentiment, I don't know about you, it is starting to seem a lot more neutral and a lot less bearish. In CT2A, this is one of the things we talk about. We talk about market sentiment and we talk about mass psychology, and they're both very important concepts. And when you see a market start to shift from a more bearish standpoint to a more neutral standpoint, once again, like we mentioned earlier, that is a step in the very much right direction. You need people to start believing that Bitcoin is going to go to the upside and start rallying before it will actually do that, unless some kind of manipulative forces come in, which I don't really see a whole lot of at the moment anyway. Okay, so as for the technical landscape, that was the majority of what I wanted to show you, but now there's also some fundamentals that I want to show you that are bullish and looking bullish for the year of 2020. Guys, one of the big developments that we're seeing coming out of the fundamental landscape for Bitcoin is one that a lot of people aren't talking about, but I try to bring it up every week or two here on the channel. That's the growth over here on Bakkt. As you guys might know, when Bakkt launched, I believe there was 42 contracts. It was kind of sad. That was about 4 months ago, back in August, I want to say. Right now, we're sitting at 3,300 contracts worth of volume. And look, that's not a ridiculous amount of volume, especially when some of our exchanges here in the cryptocurrency space are trading with hundreds of millions of dollars of volume a day. I get that 3,300 Bitcoin isn't a lot of volume, but you also have to remember, this is nearly 100x growth in 4 months. The March contracts are at 84. When you compare that to the original launch of Bakkt, all contracts were at 42. Half that number. So guys, say what you will about Wall Street and institutions stepping into the market. I personally think it is a double-edged sword, but at the same time, it is going to bring a lot of money and a lot of liquidity and a lot of, most importantly, professionalism, respect, and credibility to the cryptocurrency space. Those are all three things that we need desperately if Bitcoin is going to be mass adopted by the world, by federal governments, and by people at large. So I'm really happy to see what's going on here on Bakkt. I want to make sure that it's continuing to be managed properly and that everything's going on legitimately and that we're not seeing any tomfoolery coming out of Wall Street. But so far, I'm pretty happy with the way it's looking. Furthermore, guys, this is something else that's coming up in 2020. And look, I get it. This might get completely swept under the rug by all the political stuff going on with Iran and impeachment and all the nonsense going on Capitol Hill. There's a bunch of stupidity coming out of both sides, by the way. I'm not stating a political opinion here, so if you thought I just did, you misunderstood. Point is, Congress is very, very, very inept. And this bill might not go through in 2020, but nevertheless, it is something I wanted to mention. The Cryptocurrency Act of 2020 has been presented to Congress as a draft bill, and this hasn't been voted on yet or anything, but I've read through this in a previous video. I'll go ahead and link it up here in the top right at the iCard. I recommend you go and watch that video because this is actually a pretty big deal if this does manage to go through. Essentially, what the Cryptocurrency Act of 2020, as it is called, outlines 3 different types of crypto assets. We have cryptocurrencies, crypto securities, and crypto commodities, and the bill outlines exactly what those 3 things mean and which governing bodies would be regulating them, because that's one of the big things that we need to focus on here in cryptocurrency is the actual regulatory landscape of the market. Now, guys, I'm not a big fan of the government either. I'm not a big fan of them getting into the space, but look, it's going to happen one way or the other, and if it is going to happen, which it is, we want to make sure it goes through in the proper way. And so far, I'm pretty happy with what I've read about this bill. I don't have a problem with it. I do like that we're actually going to have some kind of definitive solution on how to define crypto assets instead of using things like the Howey test. For businesses to want to step into the cryptocurrency space, they're going to need to understand how this space works, how it's going to be regulated, or they're not going to invest their money in it, because at the end of the day, business is all about return on investment versus risk. And if we lower the risk, the more companies they're going to step into the space. One more thing that's really interesting, guys, is that the time this halving is happening is actually pretty convenient, because that's going to be about a month after people get their tax returns, because April 15th is fast approaching, and people, not me, but a lot of people that work normal jobs are going to be getting some money back, hopefully from the federal government, which will give them a little bit of money to play with. Hopefully, if they're smart and they've been watching videos like mine, then they will understand that it's a good idea to invest as much money as possible for the future. So when Bitcoin does go through its halving, a lot of people might have a little bit extra cash sitting on the side from their tax returns, and that may give Bitcoin a little bit of a pump also. Probably won't have a huge effect, but I figured I'd mention it while we're at it. And one of the last things that I want to mention here, guys, is this. A lot of the development in the YouTube space for Bitcoin has actually continued to happen, and I'm really happy with the way that the cryptocurrency community on YouTube is moving. Now, there's some things that I'm not a big fan of, especially some things that go on behind the scenes that I know about that you guys don't know about. I might do a video on that in the future. But in general, guys, being a crypto YouTuber, I'm pretty plugged into what's going on in the space. And over the last 2.5 years that I've been in cryptocurrency, the YouTube space has been continuing to get more and more and more professional, with YouTubers investing not only just in Bitcoin, but also in their production value. Shout out to YouTubers like Ivan on Tech, who has an entire studio and team behind him. We've got people using good microphones, like that one. And we've got people using good cameras. We've got people with teams. We've got people with editors and researchers. We have a lot of development going on in the news reporting landscape. The overall media coverage of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is starting to ramp up. And the cool thing is that it's completely independent. There's not really some kind of organization that's coming in here and saying, okay, well, this is how you're going to make videos. We're going to finance you. We take a part of your cut. There's not really a whole lot of that going on. Pretty much all of these creators are independent, and that's something I really am happy about, and I want to see that continue. It probably won't forever, unfortunately, if Bitcoin does grow to the scale that we want it to. But for right now, guys, I'm really happy with the state of the cryptocurrency space on YouTube. I'm not so happy with YouTube themselves and what happened a little over a week ago, if you guys remember that. But as far as the YouTubers themselves, I'm very happy with them. The YouTubers that I know I don't have a big problem with. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and name drop some people on screen. The Moon, great guy. I've talked to him on Discord several times. Alessio Rastani, I've never personally talked to him, but he seems all right. Sunny Decrease seems all right. Four Flies, Ivan on Tech, OpticalArt.com used to be a subscriber of mine. I don't know if he still is. Before he started making YouTube videos, he was posting his predictions in my comment section, actually. I mean, guys, the point that I want to make here is that there's some pretty good people working in the cryptocurrency space. I remember 2.5 years ago, everything on YouTube was, quite frankly, horribly produced videos.
Shut the fuck up. No one cares about your robot fan fiction. Know your fucking place, trash. Fucking robots. I don't give a fuck about no robots.
No one was even using a DSLR as a camera. No one had a good microphone setup. Everybody was using maybe a C920 webcam. They didn't plan their videos. They didn't script them. They didn't edit them. I was one of them for a very long time. And most of the YouTube videos were not about technical analysis and fundamentals. They were about BitConnect or Hashflare or Genesis mining or some other scam. Now, I'm not saying that Genesis mining is a scam, but I'm not very happy with Hashflare or BitConnect. The movement that's happening in the Bitcoin YouTube space, I'm very happy about. So guys, all in all, I'm really happy with what's going on in the cryptocurrency space. I'm really happy with where we're moving as a community, and I'm really excited for the year of 2020. I know a lot of developments are going to be going on here on this YouTube channel. I know a lot of stuff is going on many of the other YouTube channels. I know a lot's going on in the fundamental landscape, the regulatory landscape, the technical landscape. I'm really excited to see what Bitcoin and the community surrounding it is able to do this year. Because guys, this is big. 2 days ago, Bitcoin turned 11. It's a young industry with a lot of room to grow, but I'm already liking the way it's moving, guys. I'm really excited not only to be an investor in this space, but someone who commentates on this space for a living. And speaking as for a living, guys, I do want to mention what we've been recording on this entire video, because this was brought to you by some of the amazing people over in the first cohort. Guys, there's about 57 members of the first cohort right now. I haven't advertised it really over the last 2 or 3 weeks because I was waiting for tomorrow, because guys, tomorrow the morning live streams for the first cohort are going to be starting. That's going to be about 20 to 30 minute morning live streams where I can interact with you guys on a one-on-one basis about 3 to 5 times a week on weekdays. Guys, a lot of activity is about to start going on in the first cohort. I'm going to be posting daily technical analysis over there, and I'm also going to be trying to interact with you guys as much as possible. I'm going to be trying to play some games with you guys and get to know each and every one of you on an individualized basis. So if you guys want to see me doing technical analysis live and maybe even doing some live trading, hopefully learning some stuff from me and the other amazing people that are already over there, guys, join the first cohort down below. That link is right down in the description. $25 a month, you're going to be getting access to all of these videos down here. There are currently 8 of them. There's a 9th one being uploaded today, actually, and we're also about to add a lot more to that over the next 2 months or so. After we get this new camera, we're going to go ahead and remake every single video in CT2A and first cohort, all of them, to try and bring you guys even more quality. So if you guys want to get access to everything I just mentioned, get to know me better, and hopefully learn from myself and the community that we're building, the first cohort is linked down below. I'm really excited for it, guys. The only reason that I was really able to justify buying this new microphone that I've been wanting for 2 years, there's a Shure SM7B going into a Rodecaster Pro. By the way, for any of you audio engineers out there, if you notice any muddy sounds in this, I hear it also. Let me know what I ought to do about that. This microphone, this setup, was very expensive, and the reason that we were able to do it was because we have a regular stream of income coming into the business because of first cohort. So if you guys want to help to increase the production value of the channel while also allowing us to continue making these videos, join the first cohort, get access to all that awesome stuff that I said. I mean, guys, there are people charging over $1,000 a month for groups like this. It's ridiculous. I don't want to do that. I want to get to know as many of you as possible and help as many of you as possible. So guys, the link for that is down below. I'd be very honored for you to join us and give it a try. If you're in CT2A, I will give you your first month month's subscription payment back as a $25 Bitcoin rebate so that you basically get a free month if you're already in CT2A, like I said. And if you don't like it, guys, you can cancel at any time. It's not a lock-in subscription. I'm not going to sue you if you cancel the subscription or anything like that. But guys, this video has been going on for a while, and I'm really interested to see how this microphone sounds in an actual regular video format. Guys, by the way, tell me in the comment section down below if you like this microphone more than the Blue Yeti. It definitely sounds better to me, but I still think there's a little bit of EQ and some other stuff that could be done in here. If any of you guys are audio engineers, like I said, or just know a lot about mixing in general, let me know if there's anything I can do to make this microphone sound a lot better. I know there are some plugins for OBS that I can use to live equalize the microphone, and I'd like to know about some of those if you guys do. Anyway, if any of you guys are friends with me on Discord, go ahead and shoot me a message about that if you'd like to give some of your expertise. But anyway, guys, I do want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, though, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.